Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Alice Tang, in for Tiffany Meyer. Our top story. Chip crackdown ahead. The Trump administration might tighten the screws on semiconductor exports to slow China's military advance, and Beijing's firing back. Trump's America First plan is here, with a surprising twist to take on the Chinese Communist Party and its military. Find out what this means for China. The State Department unfreezing $1 billion in defense for Taiwan and the Philippines, the latest on U.S. strategy in the Indo-Pacific to counter Communist China. And could your EasyPass be sharing secrets with Beijing? A new toll contract for the New Jersey Turnpike might put every driver's data at risk, and lawmakers are raising concerns. Beijing is lashing out at reports that the Trump administration plans to further tighten semiconductor restrictions on China. A Chinese foreign ministry spokesman accused the U.S. of coercing other countries to target China's semiconductor industry. This comes after Bloomberg reported that U.S. officials recently met with Japanese and Dutch counterparts. The talk focused on restricting engineers from Tokyo Electron and ASML from maintaining semiconductor equipment in China. These two companies are among the world's largest semiconductor equipment manufacturers. Without their equipment, producing advanced semiconductors would be extremely difficult. ASML is the only company in this world that makes a type of extreme ultraviolet lithography machines, which are critical to chip-making process. Tokyo Electron is also a key player in the industry. Back to the Bloomberg report, it says Washington's main goal is to prevent China from developing its semiconductor industry, which could boost its military capabilities. Semiconductors are central to U.S.-China competition. The tiny devices make up the foundation for all other technology, including advanced fields like AI and quantum computing. Microchips also power our modern lives, from iPhones to cars, plus military gear and even missiles. The report also noted that some Trump officials aim to limit the types of NVIDIA chips that can be exported to China without a license. NVIDIA's AI chips are in high demand and are sought after by the Chinese military. Engineers from China's AI chatbot DeepSeek said they used about 2,000 NVIDIA H800 chips. These are lower-end, less powerful semiconductor designed to meet U.S. export controls on China. DeepSeek's launch caused a $1 trillion drop in the U.S. stock market. President Trump said DeepSeek's rise should be a wake-up call for the U.S. tech industry. The Trump administration recently unveiled its American First investment policy aimed at countering the Chinese regime and its military. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
The Trump administration's new foreign investment policy aims at countering China and the regime's military. The White House says it will accommodate foreign investors in proportion to how much they distance themselves from the Chinese Communist Party and other U.S. adversaries, including Russia, Iran, and North Korea. The White House says that the Chinese Communist Party invests in American companies to obtain its technology and equip China's military. These funds go straight to the Chinese military. That's because Chinese law requires Chinese civilian companies to support its military and intelligence. So the Trump administration plans on using, quote, all necessary legal instruments to stop Chinese agents from investing in U.S. technology, healthcare, agriculture, energy, among other areas. Now, there's another side to this. The U.S. also says it will work to prevent U.S. companies from investing in the Chinese military civil fusion. Now, that means new restrictions are coming to U.S. companies that seek to invest in China's semiconductors, AI, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, among other sectors that could contribute to its militaries, all of which is aimed to increase funding in the U.S. and discourage investments in the CCP. And it seems to be working. Apple said on Monday it would invest $500 billion in 4 years to fund an AI server factory in Texas. The factory is expected to create 20,000 new jobs. jobs. Many of Apple's products are made in China and face an added 10% tariff imposed by President Trump earlier this month. On Truth Social, Trump thanked Apple and its CEO Tim Cook, saying the move reflects the company's faith in his administration. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Combating China's fentanyl espionage and unfair business practices, the House Financial Service Committee examined several policies to counter the Chinese Communist Party. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are working to find ways to best counter the Chinese regime. A panel of experts joined the House Financial Services Committee on Tuesday to do just that. One of the most serious and deadly topics was fentanyl being sourced in China.
Transnational criminal organizations, many of them based in China, make millions of dollars off the illegal production and trafficking of this deadly narcotic. The CCP knows this and is allowing it to continue.
The CCP's business model that fuels the fentanyl crisis is also active in many other sectors of crime, including counterfeit goods, intellectual property theft, human trafficking, illicit tobacco, and trade fraud. In fact, data indicates that China leads the world in 11 of the 12 largest categories of transnational crime.
Then there's China's Belt and Road Initiative. That's where China builds infrastructure projects in other countries like ports and uses them as military installations. On top of this, these projects are known to saddle these countries with billions in debt.
Many of these countries are heavily indebted to China, increasingly indebted. The PRC operates out of Cuba, a number of sensitive sites, and we should worry about those and their ability to collect on our operations in the Caribbean. And second, I would also add to that the PRC's ownership of port infrastructure in the region, including around the Panama Canal, can pose security threats.
Too many small countries are being told, well, you borrowed China's money, so you have to give us your port. What we need to do is say to every lender and every credit rating agency that when China makes an unfair loan and you don't repay, that can't be used against the country's credit rating.
This comes after President Trump's executive order last week on a new foreign investment policy to counter China. Now, it aims to curb U.S. investment in Chinese companies and vice versa. Beijing is using this technology to equip its military, as all companies in China are required to share intelligence with authorities.
U.S. venture capital deals have fallen in China by 87%, and by 2023, net foreign investment into China turned negative for the first time on record. But it's also true that U.S. investments made in China still are valued at about $127 billion.
Right now, we subsidize Americans who invest in Chinese stocks. We do so through our tax system and the capital gains allowance. I'm going to ask all witnesses here, please raise your hand if you believe that we should provide subsidies to Americans who choose to invest in Chinese stocks. Let the record show no hand went up.
The panel recommends that Congress take stronger actions against China by passing laws that help law enforcement catch Chinese agents, increase tariffs on China, and other laws that prevent China's investment in semiconductors. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
In a major government funding cut by the Trump administration, here's one exception. Secretary of State Marco Rubio lifted the freeze on over $1 billion in U.S. defense aid for two key allies in the Indo-Pacific, Taiwan and the Philippines. This move sends a strong message to Beijing. The Trump administration is taking a tough stance against Chinese military aggression in the region.
Exemption covers $870 million for Taiwan and $336 million for the Philippines. The decision follows Beijing's continuous aggression in the region. Last week, Beijing sent a Navy helicopter to tail a Filipino civilian airplane in the South China Sea, coming within less than 10 feet of an air collision. Beijing also continues to send warships and warplanes to harass Taiwan, a self-governed democracy. As for the exemption, 3 days after being sworn in as the new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio issued a sweeping order to pause almost all U.S. foreign aid for 90 days, citing the need for a thorough review of all programs.
New Jersey drivers, watch out. Every time you zip through the Easy Pass lane on the turnpike, a company with possible ties to China might be keeping tabs. Lawmakers are raising concerns after the New Jersey Turnpike Authority awarded an 11-year contract to TransScore, a company tied to the Chinese Communist Party. TransScore's parent company, Temasek Holdings, is a government-owned entity in Singapore. State Senator Joe Panaccio noted that a former Temasek board member is a high-ranking CCP official. In an interview last week, Panaccio warned that the EasyPass system collects sensitive data, including driver's license, credit card, and banking information. It also tracks movement of both cargo and people. Congressman Jeff Van Drew echoed those concerns, calling it reckless to hand over critical infrastructure to companies with ties to China. He urged the New Jersey Turnpike Authority to reconsider the contract immediately and put America first. Arizona is taking a stand against China's forced organ harvesting, a practice where organs are taken from prisoners of conscience while they're still alive. The Arizona House passed a new bill targeting this crime last Thursday, and it now moves to the state Senate. If approved, insurance providers could limit or deny coverage for Arizona patients who received organ transplants from China. In China, hospitals offer quick access to organs, sometimes within just days. In 2019, an international tribunal in London made its final ruling on claims of forced organ harvesting. The tribunal was led by Sir Jeffrey Nietzsche. He was the lead prosecutor in the case against the former president of Yugoslavia. The tribunal stated that Falun Gong practitioners were likely the main source of China's organ supply. Falun Gong is a spiritual meditation practice that has been brutally persecuted in China for over 2 decades. Kelly Currie is a former U.S. representative in the UN Economic and Social Council. She said Americans getting organ transplants in China are basically buying an organ on demand, adding, quote, "You can schedule your appointment, you can pay cash, and then go and have your surgery." Several other states, including Texas, Utah, and Idaho, have passed similar laws to limit health coverage for organ transplants linked to China. Inside China, residents are reporting they're seeing more deaths linked to the surge in respiratory infections, a pattern that appears far more than what Beijing's officially reporting. For their safety, NTD has distorted their voices and is using only their surnames.
They, hospitals, don't really tell us about COVID-19. Now they tell people they have a severe cold. About 1/3 of the flu cases are severe, with symptoms including fever and coughing. There are more cases of white lung, fluid in the lungs. In recent years, the frequency of sudden deaths has been alarmingly high. People of all ages, both young and old, died like that.
They, healthcare providers, say it is just the flu, a standard flu. Many adults and children are affected. The funeral home is crowded, has been expanded, and now has more cremation furnaces added. I went there a few days ago, and there were a lot of people. Most of the deceased were elderly.
The number of deaths is particularly high now, higher than in normal years. In the mountains, some houses are now abandoned because their owners have passed away. We have a newly built large funeral home with more than 10 cremation furnaces operating daily.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Alice Tang, in for Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you soon.